Dang, that one seemed kind of. Hey, welcome to Stay Brown Podcast, everybody. We're your hosts, and we got a good show today. How's it going, you guys?
Going good.
It's good.
Tired.
Tired?
We're
It's cold.
expecting
It's cold.
snow. Yeah, we're expecting snow. It's cold.
Oof.
Wow. And I was just saying it's
Yeah.
60 degrees over here.
60. Oh, what I'd do for 60. Man, it's like 37, 40, something like that. It's real cold here.
Nice.
But our winter's
Oh,
coming. And then thanks to California, not only are people migrating over here, so I guess the storms are migrating too now.
Damn.
yeah.
We got 3 storms back to back coming from you guys.
Nice. Well, good.
Yeah, we need
Nice.
we need the rain. I don't know. I don't you know what? It's seasonal here, so it's fine. I could deal with it. I complain about it, but I actually like it.
Mm,
Except when I'm working in it.
Right.
I
Yeah.
know. I don't like driving in the rain. It's not cool.
So we got a good show today. We're just waiting for the lawyer to come on. Miss
Yeah,
Melissa
give us a
Knowles.
little warm us up with the details of what happened again
Yes.
for those that don't
Well, I
know.
missed the last show. I know we touched bases on it a little bit, but basically, there's a lady named rest in peace, Yolanda Ramirez, 72 years old, and she went to go pick up her brother or brother-in-law, I think it is, and the cops were called. I guess the where the brother-in-law lives, I guess the sister didn't want him to leave, and they had like an argument, but cops were called, and Yolanda was arrested, and it was just crazy. 6 cop cars for a 72-year-old lady. They hit her head
Wow.
on the police door.
Yeah.
When they closed the door, they slammed it on her leg. So
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
this is the Brentwood PD. So
Wow.
And
yeah,
are those officers under investigation now, or what's going on with that?
well, I guess his name is Peachman or something like that. He's off right now. Of course, they take him off duty when something like this happens.
Mhm.
But I mean, he's still, he's with pay, So
Yeah.
furthering the investigation, and I know when
Hmm.
when the lawyer comes on soon, I know we can find out more about it. But I mean, I know we played one video last week. I have another one here, so you guys can get up to date. Let me play this one real quick. Hold on.
Well, this is a story we first exposed earlier this week, and now we're learning more about the death of that grandmother in Brentwood. The 72-year-old died after being in police custody. She lost consciousness while handcuffed in a patrol car. She was then rushed to a local hospital. The question now, is the Brentwood PD to blame? Here's NBC's Jody Hernandez.
You're looking at Ring camera video of 72-year-old Yolanda Ramirez being detained by Brentwood police. An encounter her family believes led to her death.
And they were being super rough with her for no reason.
Ashley Jeglum lives across the street and witnessed it all. Police have said Yolanda attempted to flee after being placed under a citizen's arrest. The neighbor says that's not what she witnessed.
I know what I saw. I know what I saw.
And she wasn't running. She wasn't fleeing.
running. She wasn't trying to run.
We've confirmed it indeed started over a family dispute between Yolanda and her sister Sylvia over their brother's medical care. Sylvia Bustos did not want to appear on camera, but she told us in a statement she called 911 after things escalated. She began yelling, kicking, and pounding on the door, says Sylvia. Sylvia says she did not witness the police detaining her sister, but clarified, I never wanted her arrested and I never signed a citizen's arrest form. This is a nightmare that has only gotten worse.
6 police cars for a 72-year-old woman. What are you going to do?
Neighbors say they can't understand why things got so physical. Yolanda died a week later from a brain bleed. She still had bruises from the handcuffs. Now they're calling on Brentwood police to release the body camera video.
Why hiding? That's what my thought. If I got something against you, I'm gonna show you proof.
The firm that represents the police officer says their conduct during the encounter has been blown out of proportion and says the body camera video supports that. In a statement, attorney Doug Foley says we're confident the DA's office will determine no inappropriate police force was used in this case.
That was her first and only encounter with a policeman. First and only.
Meanwhile, Yolanda's family is heartbroken. Her husband of 49 years says he feels lost.
It's just been a month that she's been gone. My life's been altered. And for what?
In Brentwood, Jody Hernandez, NBC Bay Area News.
That's
Yeah.
sad.
So last Tuesday was the Brentwood City Council, and I was there with Mr. Ramirez and his family, and they came out in full force. You know, I mean, she's never been in trouble at all, ever. She's never had an encounter with the police except then, you know. She
And I
had
don't know. I don't know how many 72-year-olds can run.
I don't know how many.
Well,
Yeah.
well, you know, I mean, I know they run or whatever, but like when I hear running from the cops, you know, I
Yeah,
think, you know, like
mhm.
running, you know,
Right.
marathon, you know, gold medalist, but I can't see her. I can't see a 72-year-old trying to run from the police. That's just
Mhm.
crazy.
I don't know how many 72-year-olds need 6 police cars there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You
Mhm.
know, I mean,
And
when I
the
was
police
Yeah,
department, the police
Mhm.
department, they don't have a board to check them, huh?
right,
Keep them accountable.
what they don't.
Really?
They need an oversight commission. I know we already got one here for Antioch, you know, because of oh wow, you just look up Antioch police, you guys will see what they did.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, we had a hard time with them, and we're still fighting because they want people that, well, the mayor wants, he doesn't like that it's just, you know, regular people on the board.
Mm.
He wants people that are either cops or related to the cops, you know, have
Yeah.
an officer, you know, that's a relative, you know. So I'm
So
like,
they can't be found guilty of anything, huh?
right. So I mean, so we're still dealing with that.
You
But
don't have to be like a college educated person to be on a board like that to know the difference between right and wrong.
right,
Exactly.
You know, really
Mhm.
don't. You know,
right.
it's pretty much
Mhm.
common sense.
But it looks like
Um,
Brentwood needs a police oversight committee over them as well. I mean, this isn't the first time this has happened, you know. So
Mm.
it's not.
no,
Oh yeah.
we've had encounters with them in the past where we shut down downtown, you know, protesting and all that, and they allowed it, but at the same time, the police brought out drones and got all of our they got all of
Oh,
our
wow.
license plate numbers as we all left, you know. So I mean, that's fine. But
Wow.
oh yeah, going back to the city council meeting. So I'm at the city council meeting. I stayed live. So if you're my friend on Facebook, you can go back and see the live on there. I couldn't believe it because we had got there an hour early before the council meeting started, and there was already like, you know, 100 people there.
Wow.
Mm.
And yeah, all for Mrs. Ramirez, you know, the family, friends, and I stayed live. I didn't stop and then go and, you know, I went from outside to inside when the meeting started. They allowed us all to speak first, you know. I think we even started like a half hour early. and they knew everyone's going to go up there and talk. Shout out to everybody that went. There's too many names that went up there to talk, starting with the Ramirez family. So the husband, the brother of the husband. The aunts. It was very hard. Like you could feel that everybody wants justice, but and I zoomed in because I didn't want anybody to say, oh, well, it doesn't look like they're doing it. I caught 3 of the city council, Brentwood city council members, on their phones as people are talking. Like they didn't even give a damn, they were just on their phones. 2 of them were next to each other texting somebody and stuff. I was like, oh my
They're
God.
probably texting each other.
Right. Like, what are you doing after this? It's it showed that they didn't even care. It is. You have all these people crying and pouring their heart out, and
they couldn't even give them the respect to listen.
No. And this is the Brentwood City Council. Yeah, they do need to be held accountable. They do.
Yeah.
So this is Brentwood, California, not the one in LA, but the one over here in the East Bay area next to Antioch and Pittsburgh and all that. They don't even have like Cesar Chavez Day, there. I'm like, damn, man, really? They go to Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh has it, and they, in their own words, they say we don't have Cesar Chavez Day, but we always come every year to hear, why don't you have one? What's really going on? It's a simple answer because Antioch as well as Brentwood were sundown towns. And, so these are just the way that it was for those who don't know. If for people of color, we had to be in by 6 p.m. So and if not, we would get arrested and it was bad, those are hard times.
So those must be like still pretty small communities, huh?
Right. Yeah.
Brentwood, yeah. Because we have one up here. I know for a fact it used to be a sundown town, well, it's a town, but I was working up there up here in Arizona. It's called Paulden. It's a really small community, and I was at the store getting something to drink, and this elderly European walks up to me and says, "Don't be left behind after the sun goes down."
Right.
And I didn't think nothing of it at the time. I just kind of like, oh, whatever, okay. And my partner that I was working with, dude is cool as hell. He's an ex-skinhead. He's got racist on his chest right here, and him and I are taking pictures together. He's not like that no more, but he was all like, yeah, man, this time, if you're a person of color, you couldn't, don't be out here after dark. You'll end up in the field strung up or something.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that was only like maybe 20, 30 years ago. That's not too long ago.
No.
So it's sad that we still have those little towns or those little communities. And people especially the European community says, "Oh, racism doesn't exist anymore." It does. It's alive and it's very well active.
Right.
In a lot of different areas. More so like let's take Bakersfield for example. I used to live in Oildale, and those who know Bakersfield know Oildale. That was one of the most racist places in Bakersfield you could live in, and I didn't know that when I moved there.
Wow.
That sucked.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, but you got them just about in every little town and stuff like that. You got the Proud Boys, you got all these other, neo-Nazi lowriders, you got all these different, racial racial groups, and they always come out at certain times of the year. It's funny because during this administration and when it seems like they came out a lot more during this administration, and the first time when Trump came into office, they were walking around with tiki sticks, torches, and they got in a
Yes, I
fight
saw
or
that.
something, and Trump said, well, those were good people on both sides, like he was defending them.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys
Interesting.
remember that, but yeah, that's under this
That's
administration,
disgusting.
they come out the woodwork. Yeah, they come out of the woodworks. I think depends on who's in office, because some
Mm-hmm.
people make it like it's okay. Like right now, I mean, it's hunting season for people of color, right? Well, the brown people right now, right? Or Rasa, it's hunting
Yeah.
season for us. They're picking us up. Like I think this morning, 71 people they picked up in Arizona, like at work,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. That's just in this state, And then they
Wow.
try to say, oh yeah, well these guys had a record. These guys had domestic
Mm.
violence, whatever.
Right.
I
It's
don't believe any
lies.
of that.
Yeah, it's like they have to justify what they're doing. So they have to kind
You
of
would think they do.
embellish. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You
they
would
have
think
to
they do.
embellish. No, I
This
know.
government,
It's lies.
yeah, this government
Mm-hmm.
give them immunity, federal immunity, which means they can pretty much do whatever the heck they want, and not be held accountable for it. Like, how do you do that?
Exactly.
How can a person of the law not be held accountable for what they do? It doesn't make sense.
No.
But
Exactly.
for
Mm-hmm.
some of these European colonizers, it makes perfect sense to them. I'm like, man, I don't see how it makes sense. You know,
Exactly.
and I don't
Mm-hmm.
claim to be the smartest, the sharpest tool in the toolbox. That's for sure. But that just doesn't seem right.
No, it's
Um,
not. It's racist. They're being racist. It's disgusting. So, and they're targeting our people. They're doing the racial profiling.
Profiling, yeah,
If you're brown, yeah, if you're brown, you're already guilty. So it doesn't
yeah.
matter if you're a U.S. citizen, if you were born here. That doesn't matter. The fact that you're
Mhm.
brown, that means you don't belong here, according to them. So they're
And
just scooping people up.
that's our biggest crime is the color of our skin.
Mhm. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's our
Exactly.
biggest crime is the
So,
color of our skin.
It always
So
has been.
yeah,
mhm.
Always
unfortunately,
has.
yeah, and it seems like they like we get picked on the most. Like I said before,
Yeah.
there's probably like 150 to almost 200,000 illegal people from the European nation over there.
Mm,
Chinese, Japanese, their work visas are gone. Yugoslavian, Russian, German, but nobody messes
mm,
with them.
Right.
You know,
mhm,
but I think
mhm.
like I think that's the proof right there is because of the color of the skin. If you
Right.
blend in, if
Absolutely.
you especially if you're blonde, blue eyed, and white, and you walk in the streets,
Yes.
no one's gonna look twice. No one's gonna think about, oh, let me check your papers.
Mhm.
You know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Uh,
Yeah.
so we live and it's sad because if you really think about it, like um, people of color, we got to live in two different worlds. We got to live in our own world. We got to deal with our own people. But
Mhm,
at the
mhm.
same time, when we go to work or we go out to the store or whatever, we gotta walk a different life or walk a different road just to survive, just to stay here,
Right.
and that's not
Yes.
cool.
Mhm,
Yeah, so we got to live in
mhm.
walk in two different worlds.
Yes.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a shame.
And I want to touch a
I
little bit
know
on.
because
Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I was going to touch a little bit on this, right? History is not on our side.
Mm.
Historically speaking, every time there was a war, we were always promised this and that.
Hmm.
And after the
Mhm.
war, it seemed like there was a more deportation or more just our people were never, they were just used. We were promised all this and then
Mhm.
nothing happened.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think.
Well, look at how many of our vets have been deported after coming back from,
Yeah.
Boom.
serving
Yep.
in Iran, Iraq. You know what I mean? They've been deported like all over Tijuana, all over Mexicali. You'll
Yeah.
find them there. They're veteranos, that served proudly here and that were promised, their papers or citizenship, and it was all a lie. They just kicked them out. So, I
I
mean,
think
I-
I think the count is about 80 to 100,000 vets in Mexico who
wow.
joined in the military here on the promise of citizenship once they got done with their
Hmm.
service. And then, yeah,
Yes.
as soon as their service was done, they were gone.
Yes. Mhm.
Took him out.
Yeah.
Carlos?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, Melissa, Mrs. Noel. We were just talking. We touched base a little bit on the Ramirez case already, but I showed the video, one of the videos where Mrs. Ramirez was being manhandled, and you know, it's just crazy what happened, you know. But maybe you can shine some light on if there's any updates or what's going on.
No, I mean, so we did the council meeting last week. You were there, you know,
Mhm.
informing the city council of what happened. And, we don't know at that point whether they'd even gotten an update, even knew that this incident had happened or what have you. But by the next, afternoon, they were like 6 Brentwood police officers were in the neighborhood where the incident happened, knocking on doors, which to me is kind of weird. One, it's been almost 6 weeks. Why would you wait? Why would you wait almost 6 weeks if you actually ever wanted to know what happened? But having 6 officers, and they were all in there like in unmarked cars, like they parked far ahead of the where the houses were. So it was odd. The neighbors, it's a very close-knit neighborhood, and I don't think
Right.
they even know each other. So everybody's going, whoa, this is weird. Suddenly you got 6 officers. Well, like normally when you're investigating, even if you're investigating a homicide, like maybe 2 cops are assigned to work on something, are gonna go knock on doors, even sort of high profile things, high profile shootings and things like that. There's like a max 2 cops. So to have 6 out there the very next day, to me that says that they knew that that it looked crazy as hell that they didn't investigate when you knew somebody had passed away. They were hoping it was just gonna, kind of go away. But then sending that many people and knocking on doors, and the people they ended up talking to, at least a couple of them, well, some of the people didn't feel comfortable, right, opening the door because, like, what's going on? Why are we in these unmarked cars? And why is it Brentwood police and not the DA's investigator or some other agency? Because usually the
Right.
investigation when somebody passes away it's not the guy who, the POA president's friend who works on as a detective doing the investigation. So, but the witnesses were saying that the cops were like regurgitating the things we already have proven to be untrue. They were saying, oh, well, there was a citizen's arrest. That's why we towed her car, because they were concerned. They're like, why did you tow her car? It wasn't blocking anybody's driveway. We weren't bothering anybody. Why bother towing the family car? And they're like, oh, no, there was a citizen's arrest. But everybody kind of had already watched the news. So they're already knowing, no, the sister said there wasn't a citizen's arrest. So, because if there wasn't a citizen's arrest, you had no right to touch her. So they don't want to let go of that narrative. There was this, this phony citizen's arrest. But they were also like, even as lay people, they knew that the police were asking them leading questions, and that's unusual for it to be so, so bold of the questions that you're asking. The lay people are going, well, that's a, very leading question. They were going, well, you saw this, right? Like, no, that's not what we saw. And so disturbing response to it when the person that should have been out there investigating and interviewing people should have been the DA's investigator, who's actually been assigned to this since it first happened. As soon as she passed away, the DA investigator emailed her. And so why she wasn't doing it when the DA's office has to come up with the determinations, why is these 6 cops, unless the goal is to try to intimidate the people in the community and make sure that they're going to be silent. But it's too late because they've already talked to the media. They've already talked to my investigators. So, and they're not, and they were, several of them were brave enough to have their names and faces shown, and to say what happened. So, I mean, if you try to intimidate and bother them now, they're going to sue you too, and so it's I've never seen a case like this. I've been doing, wrongful death and police related stuff for, 12 years, and that's all I do. And I've never seen a situation where somebody dies in custody, even if they're going to do like, when Antioch, it was a long time ago, they killed this man named Raheem Rux and they smothered him. But it came out that, that they were, that they put him in handcuffs and he had a sudden medical emergency. So everybody just, and then they said he had, drugs in his system. So everybody was like, oh, he overdosed or whatever. But no, it was like drugs from the day before. Like it wasn't anything that killed him that day. And when we got into the litigation, we found out that there was like 4 officers that held him face down on the ground for like almost 11 minutes in August
Mhm.
in Antioch. And so, but they put something out. It was a lie, right? But they put something out so that it wasn't just this black hole where a person has passed away. I mean, normally you at least get the lie. Miss Ramirez didn't even get a lie. They just wanted to act like it didn't happen. Even the little Facebook, their little crime log thing that they put out like every day, update various things, every little thing that's happening, because there's not a lot of stuff happening. They stopped posting the day that it happened, and for like a couple of weeks didn't post anything at all. And so it was like they intentionally blacked out the media, in a way that's, to
Kind of
me.
sweep it under the rug.
But yeah, that's what the way
Right.
I looked at it. Yeah, you knew it was sweeping under the rug, right? Because if you weren't trying to sweep it under the rug, you would have put out, at least if somebody dies in your custody, even if you're saying it's not your fault, and it's a 72-year-old grandmother, a lady who had never had police contact, she was a gangster, right? Wasn't a drug addict, wasn't anybody you were going to be able to blame for just falling over and dying. At least put out the lie and pretend, you put out.
Right. Yeah.
That's crazy to me. So the more you look at it, the worse it smells.
Right.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. We had a little TikTok about the situation, and the DA came up saying that they're look something to the fact that they're looking into it, but they're absolutely sure that the officer did everything correctly. Like why would they say a statement like that if they haven't even started or are halfway through or finish an investigation?
Well, and I think that it's like, because I know the police officer, because the cop, the male cop, we don't know the female cop's name yet. We're trying to figure that out. But the male cop is impeachment. He's a police officer association president, which is like no surprise to anybody. It's always the worst dude in the department, right? It's always the worst cat bully there. But his lawyer put out a statement like they're acting like, well, this has been blown out of proportion. What? Somebody passed away. How's that blown out of proportion, right? There's no bigger thing that could happen. But they're like, oh, when the tapes come out, is going to exonerate him. Well, cool. Put the tapes out. The law says 45 days from the date of the
incident.
Well, technically, it happened on the 26th, but they didn't take her off life support until the 3rd because she was an organ donor. So it takes some more days for that process to go through. But if they were doing it based on the 3rd, today would be the day that they had to release him. But nothing's coming out. So if the videos are going to clear things up, will show us the videos. That's all how I got involved to begin with, is trying to ask the chief of police, can the family see the videos? Can we see what happened? I just assumed that I was going to see an elderly person out there arguing with somebody, clutching their chest or something that was going to explain that she had some kind of medical emergency. And then the family would go, okay, this happened. And, we could move on with their lives. And then they're like, yeah, we're investigating and we're anticipating litigation. I'm like, oh, so somebody's going to sue you. So you did, like if somebody had a medical emergency, why would you be expecting somebody to sue you?
Yeah.
You're expecting somebody to sue you because you know what those autopsy findings said. You know that she ran. You guys ran her head into the car. You guys know you did something that maybe if they did that to Carlos, he'd be fine. Maybe have a headache or something. But not no 70. Me, I might do something. I might not have woken up from something like that. But if you're younger and sturdy, maybe your body can withstand that kind of violence. But 72 years old, I mean, we all understand elders are fragile. They bruise easily. Their bones break easily. That's why people. My father was in his 70s. He fell, just a normal fall, not off of anything. Just fell from his feet to the ground and broke something. Elderly people are frail. So I can't imagine what that autopsy report is going to look like, and what's actually there to see. But I don't. How can you say that you think that something's going to clear somebody, but you haven't talked to anybody? There's at least a dozen witnesses, and up until that council meeting, not a single one of them has been spoken to. That makes no sense to me. If the DA's office is responsible for investigating and determining if they're going to prosecute anybody, but if you haven't talked to them, how would you know? You're going to rely on the body cameras, where half of these cops, they wear their body cameras like mid-chest, right? It might show the back, it might show her back. Right? We don't know what that body camera is going to show. It might show a scuffle and we don't see her head strike some. We might not see what the physical altercation, even was. Thank God though, we know from the witnesses what it was, so they can't, even if you don't have the body cameras, then we go back to what it was before, like 2015, before there were body cameras. We used to have to rely on witnesses, people's eyeballs, and the medical, and the medical records, and there's
And even that was scarce back in the day, up until the Rodney King incident. When that was, I think it was probably one of the first times that anybody ever filmed anything, as far as cops brutalizing a civilian, or a traffic stop or whoever. But it's nowadays everyone has a camera, everyone has a phone. But I think, in my
Yes.
personal opinion, being the eyewitness, being there hands on and witnessing it, I think, to me, that's better than footage. I mean, because unfortunately they were seeing it live, and I'm sure there's some kind of trauma or some kind of mental thing going on in their head to see something like that go down. uh Even just being just a disbelief that police officers who are sworn to protect the Constitution and the people,
Yep.
acting with that type of behavior, like 72 years old. I mean, what is she gonna do if even if she try to hit you? It's not gonna hurt. She'll, like
No.
you said, she'll probably fall down and break a hip or something. You know what I mean? There's no threat there really on a 72-year-old person. And I've seen the pictures. I don't know what her health was like, but she was a grandmother. She was she was not heavy set, but she was and as far as like the statements that she was trying to flee the scene. Oh my gosh, that's like how I don't know very many 72-year-old people that can actually, when you're fleeing the scene, you're moving. You're not just, it's not a fast walk.
Yeah.
You're moving, you're running. And I don't know very many 72-year-old people. Hell, I'm 56. I could barely run.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, and if you can't de-escalate and get control of a 72-year-old woman, you shouldn't even be
Yeah,
working at the DMV, right? I mean,
right.
the security guard, because I mean, think about how many grocery store security guards, elders themselves that do, that are supposed to be micromanaging people like that. I mean, and it was very clear from the video footage that she was out there. She walked from one side of her car to the other. Like, I think she was going to go get her phone, right? I think she was trying to go get her phone. But before she even got to the door, the female officer starts yelling, "She's fleeing." Why? You guys know who she is. She's lived in Brentwood her whole life. She lives a couple blocks away. Where was she gonna go? If you want to go get her, go to her house. Like, but she wasn't leaving. And if you thought she was gonna flee, all you would have had to do was say, "Ma'am, you're not allowed to leave." It's not
Right.
like she had never. This is the first and last interaction she ever had with the police. The one and only time she ever had an interaction with the police. But like anybody else, if somebody doesn't give you a direction on what to do, they can't expect you to follow direction. She wasn't under
Right.
arrest. There hadn't been no citizens arrest. The sister, who obviously they were having some kind of squabble. You can't manage a squabble between two elderly women. I don't know why you're doing this kind of work. The sister swears that she didn't sign a citizen's arrest, that she didn't agree to a citizen's arrest. You have to sign a citizen's arrest because it's you having to certify under penalty of perjury that this crime occurred and that you'll go to court and testify. I mean, the DA just throws it out the window when they get him, right? It's not a real thing,
Right.
but if you're going to do that, you have to sign it. So there was no basis for making her stay there. For what?
So they're
There's
saying
no,
that she was under a citizen's arrest, but yet you have to sign some paperwork. So like that, the time frame and all this that happens is like it doesn't make sense to me.
well, you
You know
could
what
have
I'm
been
saying? Like,
investigating the citizen's arrest. Like, I was a cop a long time ago. You can investigate a city. You can detain a person while you're investigating something. But if they're not allowed to leave, you have to tell them you can't leave. Sorry, you can't leave right now. We're still investigating. They didn't do that. They go, she's fleeing. Like she was,
No.
she had a gun and was running. It didn't make any sense. But none of that still makes sense because when they towed her car and the tow truck got there before the ambulance did, right?
wow.
That's right. Yeah, that's a different issue. But when they
Right.
tow the car, you have to fill out a form. It's a DMV form. So that it gives the towman the authority to take your car, right? Otherwise, it'd be stealing, right? You have to
Right, right.
write why. It could be blocking the driveway, it can be doing whatever. And the officer, the same male officer, wrote down that she was arrested for 148. That's resisting arrest. So that's not a citizen's arrest. That's a cop. That's a cop arrest. That's a
Yeah.
cop arrest. You only cops
Mhm.
can arrest. You can only
Yep.
resist arrest from a police officer. So it didn't say anything in there about a citizen's arrest, no noise disturbance, all the different things that they've said. Well, what you put on that DMV form before you realized she was critically injured, that you were arresting her for resisting arrest, which is what you do when as a cop, you arrest somebody for resisting arrest when they pissed you off. Period.
Mm-hmm.
No other basis for doing that. And if you try to send a 148 as a standalone crime to the DA, they are not going to prosecute that. You are resisting the arrest for what crime? You have to have a crime you're being. So they can say whatever they want now, but when that man filled out that form being vindictive, not wanting Mr. Ramirez to be able to pick up the family car without paying $500 or whatever, he put 148 because that's why he handcuffed her and put her in the car. He could say whatever he wants now, but he signed that form and gave it to the tow man. And then they realized that she wasn't well. But that's what they said at the time, probably figuring that she was going to be fine or whatever they figured. But that's what they're stuck with, that she was arrested her.
So at that point there was no other than the 148 resisting arrest, there was no crime established.
Not based on the thing that she was being arrested for at that point, the only penal code section that was on that form, that DMV tow form, was 148. And there's plenty of space in that form. You could have put PC 148, 415, whatever. You could have put 2 or 3 different things in there, but the one thing you put in there is what you had her in handcuffs in the back of your car for. But you can't arrest somebody for resisting if you're not actively investigating.
Yeah.
And if the sister's already told you, and according to her, she told 2 different reporters, 2 separate days, that they told her, we're trying to inform her about a citizen's arrest. Lay people don't even know what citizen's arrests are. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
And so the male officer was informing her, well, you could do a citizen's arrest. And the sister was like, no, I don't want to have her arrested. I think that was kind of the line, right? Whatever you come out and resolve your little squabble, but having somebody taken off to jail is a different thing entirely, right? And so she vehemently denied that she agreed to that. She said that she didn't sign anything. And so she had already told you no. Why are you still there? All they would have had to do is tell Ms. Ramirez, look, if you come back, we're going to arrest you for trespassing. You got to go, get in your car and leave. And when you've been told you're not allowed to be here. And if they would have came back, they could have arrested her for trespassing because she'd have been.
Right.
That's how you resolve something like that. End of conversation. And she was going to get in her car and drive home, right? And go complain to her family about her sister or whatever, normal people do. But instead, you went and took this person, didn't give him any directions. You didn't give him any orders. Like, before you can put your hands on somebody and force them to comply, you have to give them a direction. You have to give them verbal command. If you don't hear any of that, you hear she's trying to flee. And then the man runs out there like, as if they weren't like, the way that street is situated is that they were like in the middle of this long ass block, right? And it's a one-way street. And so she's running, and like, she would have had to hit like 4 corners before she could even get back to a main street. So they knew she couldn't go anywhere. They knew she wasn't going to run. It's crazy. But they, for some reason, well, I think I know the reason, but they didn't see the elderly grandmother. They didn't see that when they saw her. They saw her as some kind of criminal, or somebody that what we see so often in cases where people get hurt is the police feeling like they need to teach somebody a lesson.
Yeah.
And when you try to do that, a young person can survive those lessons, and be upset, maybe have a broken bone, or, go to get some stitches or something. But an elder, you have to be, the law's called, say there's this thing in the law called the eggshell rule. If a person is fragile, you're responsible for the harm you cause them, even if you didn't know that they were fragile. If you toss an elderly person, bump their heads on something, throw them in a car, an elder could pass away just from the stress of something like that. Just the mistreatment. We know that they struck her head because people saw her head get struck. I don't believe that those people came out of the woodwork just to lie, right? Who would lie on the police with using their own name, knowing where their home was, right? Always lying on the Brentwood police. But if you strike somebody and you cause these kind of injuries, Doesn't matter if it wouldn't have happened to somebody else, because it did happen to her. And she didn't have any kind of, she didn't have no kind of special condition. She didn't have any kind of condition where her bones crumbled easily. She didn't have any kind of diagnosis or anything that would make her unusually fragile. She was just the level of fragile that any woman of that age and,
Right.
would normally be. And that's why unless you're raised by wolves. I mean, shoot, even some people I know that were raised by wolves treat elders well. You wouldn't, you wouldn't, like, if you go to prison and you beat up elderly women, like you're like a child molester, right? You're like, who, because
Mhm.
no matter what your ethics and morals are, elder women, like, we just don't do that. We don't do that. Nobody condones stuff like that. So to
So
think that,
so this police officer, does he have a history of this type of behavior?
well, I mean, I guess that would be would anybody even know if he had that kind of history? Because look what they've already hidden, right? So if he's beating
Right.
people, unless they're suing, and if you're, what concerns me is that you look at a situation like that and you say, what is he doing to people in dark alleys, people that are
Yeah.
vulnerable? What is he doing to the undocumented folks that don't feel maybe they have recourse or afraid of other alternative things that might happen if they sue or go to court or something? And so, but imagine some guy
Yes.
that actually did something bad in a dark alley somewhere. They did this in broad daylight in front of a bunch of witnesses. They knew all those people were outside and
Mhm.
watching, like, because they were nosy. They walked
Mhm.
outside and were looking. It's not a neighborhood where they knew her. Everybody knew one another. I mean, that was Miss Ramirez's. That was her family home. That was where her mother had lived, right? So this was
Right.
like, yeah, this was like her neighborhood. And so, all these, you did this at 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning in front of broad, on a Friday, and in broad daylight. So, God knows what he's doing. I wasn't able to find anything in the federal court, but up until a few years ago, though, you weren't able to see who did things, because oftentimes they wouldn't publicly release the names of officers, and so it would take attorneys having to go back sometimes a year or more later and amending lawsuits to add the officers' names. And so it's only fairly recently when
Mhm.
we started actually knowing which officers were doing what. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so oftentimes it's, if you amend the lawsuit, sometimes it can set you back. They get to do a bunch of other procedural things. And so oftentimes people just don't do it because it's an extra step. I always do it because I want the bad guys, everybody to know who did what. But
Right. Yeah.
it's common to not do the kind of that extra step if you don't know. And if it's not a death case, the law doesn't require the city to identify who, like, broke somebody's arm or leg. And so I don't really know right now what there is. We'll find out during litigation who he was, as far as formal complaints and things like that being filed
Well,
against him.
how can the police stations have those kind of like laws to protect those police officers that are violent or that causes that go overboard as far as their as a routine traffic stop? You know, to me, it should be like that should all be public. The public should have access to that because we want to know who's protecting it. They're, like I said, once again, they're supposed to be protecting the community, the people within the community. But if they are the wolves going to the sheep, it doesn't make no sense. Like they need to be named. I firmly believe that like this incident right here, if he was to be found guilty, I believe his Fourth Amendment right, as far as to bear arms, should be taken away. I don't think that he should be able to go
Mhm.
to the next city over and be a police officer or a sheriff or hold any office such as the power to arrest. Maybe a security guard, maybe unarmed security guard, but I think police officers they have too much protection. The
Yeah.
city protects them too much, especially when they do something wrong. And I don't know if that's because they don't. The city is trying to protect themselves in a way. But they need to be held in accountability even more so because they're paid to protect and serve the community, not harm
Mhm.
and cause chaos in the community. So
Mhm.
it just blows me away how the laws work and how the laws uh, operate in that type of, like, the task force or the police department and stuff like that. And the DA, if you ask me, I think the DA works with the police officers because I think, in a sense, they're kind of on the same team.
They're one team. I mean, I
Mhm.
tell you all the time, expecting the DA needs the police to cooperate for
Mm,
them to be able to charge cases. And so if you piss off the cops, They just stopped coming to trial. They just started getting sick. You know, they blew flu. Like, you know, I'm from Vallejo, and as soon as we started trying to hold people accountable, they were quitting. People were out on leave for 6 months. They started getting stress leave. You know, we were stressing them out that we wanted them to follow the law. And, you know, the accountability part it's very difficult because you have the DA who needs the cops to prosecute, who's supposed to be prosecuting. Most DAs won't prosecute cops. And then, the backup is the attorney general who, if you get in a case with like CHP, is the attorney general's office defending the cops to work for the state. And so they're defending cops while supposed to be prosecuting cops. So it's like, it's a conflict of interest. And so you just end up having, and especially now, the political climate is such that nobody wants to be somebody who's prosecuting cops. And so 2020, this would have been a huge, people would have been out shutting down the freeways over Mrs. Ramirez back in 2020 because the climate was different. There was Democrats in office who, they pretend like they care about stuff like this. The Republicans won't even pretend like they care, right? They don't care. Nobody actually cares, right?
Yeah.
But at least some of them will have the pretense of it, and then they'll pretend to do an investigation. Now, thankfully, with the way the law is set up, anytime somebody dies in custody where there wasn't a gun involved, the attorney general's office is supposed to review it. So at least at that time, even if the DA and the coroner's office all, work in cahoots, which they have with previous cases where they didn't document, like when Raheem Rux, I just use him as an example because it was such a scathing example. He died of asphyxiation, and they put on his autopsy report. It was like a drug overdose. He had his blood vessels in his eyes were burst out on both sides because that's what happens when you get asphyxiated because you're struggling.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He had all of these bruising on his shoulders from being held down on the ground so tightly, but they didn't document any of that. That's when I started going and taking photos of people myself because I used to be deputy coroner. So I'm going and look myself, and I have photos of me holding his eyeballs open with my fingers to show the hemorrhaging, and then we showed the medical examiner. He's like, "Oh, I must not have seen that." Dude, that's your job. That's not my job. It's your job. And so he had to acknowledge that they never told him that the Rux was held face down. He had to backtrack on his findings. I'm like, you're calling this man you're saying he had drugs in his system. We get our own expert who goes in there and goes, no, they gave him CPR. That was the little dust from the drugs from 3 days ago. That man didn't die from no drug overdose. You guys swirled that dope back up into his system after you killed him. And it was clear looking at his body. This man had dirt in his teeth, up in his nostrils, and you're saying he died of a drug overdose? What the fuck was he? Excuse me. What was he? Was he snorting? There was dirt from the Antioch from the ground, and so realizing that the coroner that they paid put out this thing to make it, and we have the photos, but he couldn't do anything except for acknowledge that. Oh yeah, no, I didn't know any of that. If I'd have known that he was held down, if I'd have known all of that, then yeah, he probably died from asphyxiation. It's like.
Wow.
That's murder.
In
That's like
your
what
line,
happened to George Floyd, but like 5 times 500.
yeah. In your line of work, do you see this more frequent, more kind of like this is like the norm?
It's the norm for because it's and it's not that the system's broken. This is how it's built. Like it's
Yeah, it's how it's built. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And and so everybody's protecting the people, and so that's why we end up having a higher something like this. Person gets shot. I go myself and figure out where the bullets came in and where they went out. Those things it's hard to fudge those kind of things. Something like this, I would normally, go get your own autopsy, go do your own stuff. We were real lucky because, I had the family submit for the Colin Kaepernick's foundation. He has his autopsy initiative program where they actually, if you fill out all the information, a lot of families end up getting a free second autopsy, and so they've done that. And so we're working with they've already done the second autopsy, and so that's going to be. We won't have to worry that the Contra Costa County coroner is going to hide stuff because a coroner in another state who has no ties here has already looked. And so we've gotten some
and they'll be and that work will be recognized by the courts and all that.
And so I work out of the federal court, and the federal court looks at the doctor's qualifications, not which city he works in. So are you a medical doctor? Most of the time when we bring in experts, we're bringing experts from out of state. It's amazing the work that they do. They also, it was such a blessing because they also they provide free cremation service for the family.
Oh, wow.
For folks that are on a fixed income, it's a big deal to have to do all these.
Yeah.
Even for an attorney, to do the second autopsy, that's my out-of-pocket cost, right? It's just me, deciding you want to fork up 15, 20 grand for something that may not even be a police killing and stuff. So it's something that gives a family opportunity. Well, I just, after meeting Mr. Ramirez, and 76-year-old man who's been with his wife for 55 years, I was gonna do it anyway, because they needed answers. They needed to figure it out. But it was just a real blessing. The Foundation kicked in to do this stuff, because then we can use that doctor and his autopsy and all of his findings in the litigation. It'll saves them money in the long run on it. But it's something where you get that peace of mind of knowing that somebody other than the Contra Costa County Sheriff's Department, Coroner's Office, has looked at it, because I don't trust them farther than I can throw them. Because that's right where we saw one not documenting real concerns, and now they're not doing coroner's inquests anymore, which they used to do for every in custody death. Now it's discretionary. All the sheriffs and chiefs decided that they didn't need that, so they decided with their discretion to not do one for an elderly woman who got bumped in the head.
Wow.
So we're going backwards on the accountability stuff,
Right.
with that, because that's the first time, for me, when I went to coroner's inquest, Raheem Rex, is when I realized those inquests, you can ask questions, you can send up questions, you get to see camera footage, you get to hear the officers say what happened, you hear the autopsy findings, and it's in that one they changed the findings from natural causes, because they're saying it was like his heart plus drugs, and they changed it to accident. Now that's a big deal, because it was saying that somebody killed him. It wasn't a homicide, which is what we thought it should have been. But it turned out that they think that the police accidentally killed him. Well, you can't accidentally kill somebody.
Yeah.
But it was still them. They wanted to give the police a pass, but acknowledge that the police had something to do with his death. And so, but that independent jury, Ms. Ramirez's family won't get that independent jury from the coroner's inquest now, because they decided it wasn't, but how do you let the sheriff and the police chiefs decide that you don't need accountability? Like, that to me is crazy. One of the good things about such a, Contra Costa County is very much reminds me of Solano County, very backwards in many ways. And so to not have that thing as a kind of backup to make sure that the things are going to be publicly viewed is, made me want to get involved in this even more, to make sure that we can't let what happened to her get brushed under the rug, right? Because if you're going to let elders, I believe, murder get brushed under the rug, like who are we as a community, society, right? Like, it's like having somebody in a wheelchair or a little kid or something. Some people we got to stand up for. Shoot, I was half retired before this happened. I was supposed to be taking a year off, and I heard about it. I was like, let me just get out here and see if there's something here. And the more I'm digging, it smells so bad. And I think it's, I can almost promise you it's going to turn out to be worse than anybody thought it was going to be, because the more you want to hide it, the worse it smelled. That's why you want to put it down. That's why you don't want to put out a press release. You don't want to put out a little blip of information. I got to get ready to wrap up. I got to grab my kiddos.
Real quick, one quick question. So we know how Brentwood PD rolls, and we did the city council meeting. I know what I said, and I saw like 3 of them on their phones and all that. But how did you receive that? How do you feel like they received all the comments?
I thought it was BS. I mean, for me, they put out their little like statement after we'd already left and everybody was outside. It was like, we have empathy for the family.
Right.
What does it even mean in this context? Like, to me, like, not even an offer of condolence is kind of crazy to me, that, even if you don't, that's not an admission of guilt, like to say we have empathy and, it's going to be investigated. But then the very next day you send out, 6 Brentwood cops. That sounds like you trying to, to go in there and find out what the story is, so you can maybe retell your story before you have to put out the police, the police.
Right.
But, I don't, it wasn't not the kind of response that, it's not the kind of response that you want, but it's not, it's not unexpected. It's not like the city manager and city attorney didn't know that this thing had happened, right? I mean, they're very poorly coordinated, right? No coordinated city or situation is going to allow the police chief to talk to me after they killed an elderly person.
Yes.
Wow.
But
exactly.
yeah, no, he got on the phone with me. He's like, oh, well, we can't tell you anything. We're going to do an investigation. There could be litigation. He's like, well, I don't know if you've ever done, dealt with anything like this before. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. That's all I do, right? But you could have Googled me and figured that out before you called me, but he didn't. It was very, very kind of like a Keystone Cops sort of thing where I'm going, no
Right.
normal city would have somebody talk to me without first talking to the city attorney and be like, is it a good idea for me to talk to the lawyer who's, and then a week or so later, they're getting a claim and see, the legal claim, letting them know I'm going to sue them. And, just there's different ways that you handle things. At the end of the day, it becomes liability for the city that
Yes.
you would want your city to have policies in place, because the way they've handled this, of course, gives us a tremendous advantage, right? Because you haven't
Yeah.
even gotten to tell your pregame story, which is great for us
Mhm.
because it's closer to the truth. But as a city, you're supposed to have policies in place so you don't have a lawyer that goes out and investigates things before you do. That's crazy. Like my first shot
Mhm.
at ever getting to the witnesses before the police did. They usually want to gather all the information so they can hide it. You didn't even try to hide it. You just tried to pretend like it didn't happen, like a little kid that puts a blanket over their head and thinks people can't see them. I was like,
Right.
really
Yeah.
Mhm.
crazy. But they've got an interim chief, and that may have something to do with it. Maybe this is just how they do it because they haven't been called out on it. But we were going to try to get to a council meeting, you know, probably trying to do the next one because we want to get the camera footage. It should be out by
We'll
now
be
based
there.
on the day she died, and
Mhm.
so we're going to keep pushing on that.
Yeah.
How
Thank
Almost.
soon can you get
We
the
thank you. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Rita.
how soon can you get the results from your autopsy that you did?
So they have to
When
be
would
able
you
to.
guys get
Yeah, they have to see the body camera footage and things like that. So most likely, I mean, I'm fast tracking the litigation, just
Mhm.
because we want to get everything done as soon as possible and find out what there is to see. But
Mhm.
I can't even file a lawsuit for another month according to where the law is set up. And so once that happens, usually a couple months before you can get into discovery to actually request the documents. But the coroner's
Yeah.
office, he has to be able to look at all the autopsy photos and the body cameras and things like that,
Mhm.
understand how everything goes together, because they don't want to base their findings just on the physical,
Mhm.
unlike the normal coroners where they'll do it just on the physical. Now we have some preliminary findings. We can't discuss the preliminary findings. They're
Mhm.
concerning, but
Mhm.
but they have to see, make sure there's no toxicology reports that are concerning. Obviously, that's not her situation. There's not going to be any toxicology issues, but they have, so they can't give their final. So it'll probably be, I'd say, maybe 3 to 4 months before we get the final one. If we could, if
Oh
the
wow. Okay.
coroner's office would release information now, we could do it differently. But the coroner's office to give up anything. But anyhow, thank you guys so much.
Mhm.
I appreciate being a chance to get a chance to
Yeah,
talk to you guys
thank
about what's
you.
happening here.
Yeah,
It's
no,
super.
thank you. Thank you
Thank you
for
so much.
very much for taking this on and coming on the show with us and explaining just clearing some things up and talking with us, and hopefully we can get this out, and we're looking forward to seeing the end results. Prayerfully
Mhm.
justice will prevail. And I think that's
Mhm.
just, the bottom line is just we just hope justice, the right thing is done, you
Yeah.
know. So I think
Yeah.
that's what we'll be just keeping in prayer, the right thing be done.
Mhm. And
So
I'm
thank
glad
you,
you're
Melissa.
working
We
with the
appreciate
family as
you.
well. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for working with the family.
Thank you guys so much, and I'll definitely keep you posted on the next
For
what's
sure.
coming up. Okay.
We'll see you
Thank
soon.
you.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Bye. Thank you
Guys.
so
Have a
much.
great rest of your day. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Wow, that's crazy how they wow, that's just nuts how there's the accountability and I just
Mhm.
hope these people just don't get away with it. That would really, the way the system is supposed to be set up is to serve and protect, not go out there and
Exactly.
and destroy, and I think
Mhm.
it just says a lot about the police officers and their training, like,
Mhm.
who, like, I don't know, what was his upbringing, what is his mental state of health, how the hell did he
Yeah.
become a police officer?
You
How did he
know,
get that far?
Exactly.
unfortunately, I've seen this quite a few times. I
Yeah,
can honestly say, if anything, he's just going to transfer over somewhere else. That
that's uh,
go ahead.
That's the BS right there. You know, like
Yes.
a lot of these cops that have shot people, you know, I call it murder because if you're shooting a kid running from you in the back, you know, you
Mm-hmm.
had no business shooting them, or a grown adult. But all they do is just go to another
Mm-hmm.
city or another
Right.
state, and then they get hired on, and then
Mm-hmm.
they commit the same crime. They commit the same, you know, crime in that city as that police officer, and then they go to another one, they go to another state. I think I
Mm-hmm.
remember reading an article, you know, a year or so ago. A guy, he started in Florida and ended up somewhere like up in Chicago or up there somewhere. He went to like four different states, four different police stations until he got kicked out because of the police brutality,
Wow.
the
Wow.
assaults, all these accusations that the community was coming up against him. And all he did was just move
Oh,
around and got a job again.
Right. And
You
I'm just
know.
speaking from experience. So for Antioch, just Antioch, we got there was a cop that killed somebody, a San Francisco cop that killed somebody over there, and now we have him.
Oh
So
oh
yeah.
wow. No way.
during the tech scandal here in Antioch, the cops all transferred over to different areas. Even the chief of police, he's a chief over in Idaho or Iowa. I don't know where the hell he's at now, but now he's chief over
Wow.
there. You know, I mean, they all just left. They're like, bye. You
Yeah.
know, and
Oh my God.
just it's sad, but this is how they
So you
police
had been
the
talking
police.
about that. You had been talking about the oversight committee that you guys have there in
Yes,
Antioch, and you mentioned how Brentwood doesn't have anything like that. So who gets
no,
to, put that together? Like, is that something that's voted by the citizens? Like,
they're
how?
interviewed. The city council
Mm,
interviews them. They're voted in. I mean, and then that wasn't
mm,
enough for the city council here, or not the mayor. He wanted to have it to where for you to be on the police oversight committee, that you had to be
mhm.
married or related to a police officer, you know,
But that's a
or you
conflict of interest, isn't it?
ah,
No.
or you're a
Not in their
retired,
Right?
mind.
or you're a retired
Oh my
police officer.
goodness.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all see it. He was serious. He was like, yeah, let's pass this vote. But no,
Wow.
it didn't pass. And as a matter
Oh,
of fact,
good.
I think we'll have some of the members in the future on the show of the Antioch,
Mm,
just so you can see what they're going through right now. You know, they're going through it, you know.
wow.
So
Hmm.
it's just hard. It's like we want justice, but
Hmm.
it's like we're not getting it. They're just transferring
Well,
everybody in.
honestly, I think this helps talking about it, putting it out, spreading the word so that people can see what's going
Mm-hmm.
on, the reality of the situation. That's what's going to make we're going to be able to hold these people accountable. The officers, the city council, the mayor, we have to talk about it because, Mrs. Ramirez did not deserve to die. Okay. She was
Yeah.
having a discussion with her sister. She did not deserve to die, to be tackled by 6 police officers, and brutalized and murdered literally in the front lawn. Like that did not need to happen. So those
Right.
officers need to be held accountable. And I think, putting out the word, talking about it so that people are aware so they could show up to council meetings and, go down to the mayor's office and talk to him and to the police chief. I mean, that's how we're going to change all these things. So I really
Blow up
appreciate
the
you doing
email.
this and bringing it to light.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
And like the
Right
banner
on.
says, justice for Yolanda Ramirez.
Yep.
absolutely.
Our
Yes,
sincere
absolutely.
hearts go out to the husband, the family,
Yes.
just being there and uh the hour before and burning sage and the
Wow.
flyers and the posters that I had brought, and I
Mm,
mean, you can feel the emptiness in their hearts. I mean,
Yeah.
you could feel
wow.
it's just crazy. This
Wow.
makes no sense. But then it makes
No, it
perfect sense
doesn't.
if you're in the city of Brentwood.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah. And I
We need
wanted
that
to
footage.
real quick, I wanted to acknowledge the council and the mayor and all that and the way they were acting, because
Mm,
this is coming from there, you know, it's coming from
Mm.
the
yeah.
top. It's starting with the mayor
Mm-hmm.
and it's going down, and I'm sure it goes higher than that too, you know. So, but yeah,
Well,
what
I'm
a
sure you'll
show.
keep us posted, Carlos. Let us know what goes on, and the next
I
time you
will.
go to the city council and
Mm-hmm.
speak, or even film, go live on it. The number one thing is, in my opinion, is we shouldn't let like these type of things go under the rug and not talk about it. We got to keep on talking about it
Exactly.
until
Right.
something, the right thing is done.
Yes, because honestly, I
So
don't want that police officer to come over here in my city. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, exactly. So let's expose them. Let's, get them fired, because they don't need to be doing that. They don't need to be police officers. I don't want that type of police officer, out in the street, gun happy or whatever it is that, he's doing. I mean, that he's obviously clearly not in the right profession. So we need to get
no.
rid of those types of cops. So, yeah, I mean, we need to talk about this and expose all of them, honestly.
That's right.
I'm telling you,
Wow.
that gun and badge really, really goes to people's heads sometimes.
It does.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's sad, but I think that's just a sad truth too. It yeah. So, anyway, next week's show, we're gonna be working on that for next week. We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
always do.
Figure
We'll
it
get
out.
it together. But this was
Mm-hmm.
definitely a fun show. I'm glad Melissa, right? Her name was Melissa.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Melissa.
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I'm
Melissa
glad she came
knows.
on it and I'm glad she's taking the case and representing it. She seems like she's
Yes.
very compassionate about what she's doing.
For
And I
sure.
think
Yeah.
and it seems like she sees the whole BS going on, and she wants to expose it and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But I'm sure even with her job, the exposure, there's only so much that she can do,
Right.
because of
Mm-hmm.
laws and whatever. But the laws are all screwed up anyways. They only work for certain people.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
know.
So anyway, thank you all. Thank you guys for
Yeah.
being on the show. Thank you guys for watching the show. Tune in next week.
Yes.
We're live every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard
Mm-hmm.
Time. We'll be back. Thank you. This is Stay Brown Podcast, and we'll see you soon.
Yes.
Be safe out there,
Thank
everybody.
you, guys.
Who?
Thank you.